our mission is really about changing that relationship with beauty to be a more joyful one. And that's why I called it Kulfi. You know, Kulfi is fun, it's ice cream, it's what we have at celebrations.
Our guest today is a leader in beauty, redefining inclusivity and cultural representation. Priyanka Ganjoo is the founder and CEO of Kulfi Beauty, the first South Asian-owned makeup brand at Sephora. What started as a brand empowering South Asian beauty has quickly become a cult favorite, resonating across BIPOC and queer communities. Priyanka's transition from corporate beauty to entrepreneurship has been key to Kulfi's rapid growth. In 2023, the brand launched at Sephora and saw a threefold increase in sales. Its flagship Kajil eyeliner remains a top seller, with 1 unit sold every 14 minutes. Recognized for her leadership, Priyanka was recently a distinguished speaker at Sephora's Impact Summit, alongside industry leaders like Danessa Mirix and Tower 28 founder Amy Liu. Today, Priyanka joins us to share how Kulfi is reshaping the future of inclusive beauty. Priyanka, thank you so much for joining us today on That Desi Spark.
I'm so excited to be here and finally meeting you in person, and it's for an interview. That's amazing.
I cannot wait. I'm wearing a full face of Kulfi because it is amazing, and I cannot wait to get into our conversation. I want to start from the beginning. When you were younger, were there any dream jobs you had, or had the sense of, I want to be this when I grew up?
Growing up, I didn't have a specific dream job, but what I loved seeing was women specifically, being really creative. And I think back to artists we read about, or even just seeing folks on TV. It wasn't something that I associated with that being a job, but I think just seeing women out there doing things was really, really interesting to me.
Is there something your parents did or didn't do that you think helped shape you into the person you are today?
There's a lot my parents did, especially around having very high expectations, which I think does shape at least the perseverance part of it, right? As I think about, I grew up in India and, have since then lived in Singapore and then moved to the US pretty much by myself and sort of created this life for myself. And I don't think that would have been possible without this idea of you can do it, there's no barrier you can't cross. Sometimes it is a lot of pressure, I feel, for sure, of never feeling like you're good enough or have accomplished enough. But on the flip side, it also kind of has made me a lot more resilient. And I feel like that's something that was ingrained by my parents.
That's amazing. When you say high expectations of you, did they have that classical, we want you to go pursue a career in these fields because they are ambitious, but they also provide a level of security? Or was it, we want you to persevere and succeed, but you get to determine what that looks like?
Definitely following the game plan of being a doctor and engineer. So actually I am an engineer by training, so I did follow that path to a certain extent. And my sister is a doctor, so we did follow that path. And then my sister is still a doctor, and I somewhere along the line decided to go out on my own and do something different.
I love that. Let's talk about that journey, how you moved from engineering into the business side of beauty. What was that like?
It actually happened right after I graduated college, because my first job was in consulting and it was a business role. And I found myself really interested in business more than I was in the engineering side of things. And that's why I gravitated towards jobs that had that exposure. And so that was kind of my first sort of foray into the professional world. But as I think about why I'm doing what I'm doing now, it was also because I loved sort of seeing that connection between something we can create and then actually being able to touch it and feel it. And that's why I'm also drawn to beauty and fashion and consumer goods, because it's you can touch and feel it and experience it, and it has such a profound emotional impact on you. But that was kind of, that was sort of that connection was really important to me for what I first did. Of course, I can say that now, but I definitely did not have the words to say that when I graduated school, but I definitely in the back of my mind was trying to look for that connection between what I'm doing versus what I can experience in real life.
In addition to your incredible business skills, where did your storytelling skill come from? How did you cultivate that?
I think it's really been about finding the voice to channel my lived experiences, and I don't think I've always had that. I feel like it's only in my 30s that I even acknowledged that I had these experiences with beauty, right? Like, I, growing up, never felt beautiful. I never felt like I belonged in the conversation about beauty, that I had permission to wear lipstick. And all of that wasn't something that I actively recognized or thought about till in my 30s, sort of like reflecting on my experiences and then starting to be like, okay, why do I feel this way? And sort of like asking that question of why. And you realize so much about yourself when you ask yourself that, like, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why am I not finding satisfaction in this corporate job, even though I've met all the metrics of like, I have my promotion and I'm getting my raises and I have a good life, but why am I still not feeling satisfied? And the more you kind of reflect on yourself, you find those stories. And I think with Kulfi, you'll see that every product has that connection. There's a reason why it came to life, is because there was something in my personal experiences or in the experiences of our community that triggered that like question of why hasn't that existed before?
That's so important, and I do want to talk about Kulfi, but first, something I learned about you is you didn't get into makeup until much later, so you were not someone playing at their mother's vanity.
Nope.
It was in your 20s when you first started applying makeup. Talk to us about that.
I didn't think I could wear makeup. Like, I had a fear of it. I didn't feel welcome. And the one experience I had with beauty was going to a department store's makeup counter, and they were selling me all these products to be like, this is to make your nose look smaller and to make your lips look bigger and like to make you look less tired. And so it was sort of this like problem solution thing where I'm like, I don't think my nose is a problem that I need to solve for. And so I feel like I had this very like negative relationship because of these early experiences with makeup. So it's not something I ever was like, let me participate in this, or like it feels good to put makeup on. And it was only in my late 20s where I started working at Estee Lauder and started playing with makeup and beauty on my own terms, that I was like, wait, this can be fun. This doesn't have to come with all this baggage around, oh, you're wearing makeup to attract men or make your skin look lighter. There's so much judgment even growing up in the society I grew up in that comes in with makeup, but discovering it on my own terms just changed that relationship for me. And that was the aha moment for me, to be like, wait, this is fun. Like, I don't have to take putting on glitter shadow so seriously. It's a fun shadow.
Do you remember the first product that really got you excited about makeup?
Oh, this was 2016, so it was definitely highlighter. I don't know if you remember the ABH highlighter palettes. Everything was about like the glow that you can see from the moon, yes. And I was all about it.
I love it. So let's go into Kulfi. Every product you have developed has a very strong connection to the culture, is uniquely developed for us in mind, but can be enjoyed and used on all, and has a really impactful story behind it. What was that first Kulfi product?
The first Kulfi product was our Kajil. And it's interesting because Kajil is not even considered makeup in many of our households. Like, my mom made it at home by burning like almonds and mixing it with ghee, and you dot it. Like, I have photos of me as a newborn with Kajil dotted for nazar, which is the evil eye. And I think it has such a beautiful connection that's so universal in so many South Asian households, that had to be our first makeup product. And I realized as I was talking to we do a lot of focus groups and consumer interviews. I was talking to women in New York coffee shops, and they would always be like, yeah, I have this Kajal, but it's just like, it smudges, I'm not in love with it. Like, I have it because I have to wear it with my Indian clothes or whatever it is. And I realized that it hadn't been sort of like reimagined, and that's why we launched with Kajil.
That's amazing. And the story you tell about Kajil, that this is a beautiful formulation. It does not smudge, it stays put, it layers beautifully on your waterline, but can also be blended out. You also brought the fun into it with a wide range of shades and colors to do the more classic look and the play it up look. What is your approach to color selection with your products?
We have in our culture such beautiful colors in our clothes, right? Like so many of our fabrics or textiles, they've changed the world, to be honest, right? Like so much of design and fabric and textiles comes from India and South Asia more broadly. And I feel like that hasn't quite been translated to color and makeup. And that's why I feel like that's where we get inspired, right? So if you look at our Zari Eyes eyeshadow, which both of us are wearing today, they're inspired by Zari, which are the silver and gold threads in a lot of South Asian garments. And those colors, like the chartreuse and the teal blue, like eyeliner, those colors haven't existed in makeup before. You have to like search really hard to find them. And we're inspired by so much in our culture and bringing that to life through the products we have. So that's kind of how we think about color from an inspiration perspective. But then the second thing about color is that it needs to complement our undertones. And South Asian undertones often we have olive undertones, or we have mix of pink and olive and yellow undertones. They're just not studied. They're so under-researched. And that's such a big part of what we do when we are developing shades. That's why we have the most, I feel, unique shade ranges. Like our Lassi lip staining oil has this beautiful range of like a cool brown to a pop of color, which is purple, because those are the shades that are really developed to complement South Asian undertones in particular. But of course, they have universal appeal beyond that. And that's really important to me with color too, because how many of us have had that experience wearing a pale lipstick and looking completely ashy without concealer? And I don't want another brown girl to have that experience again.
Your formulations also apply beautifully. Like this is foolproof. I was a late to makeup girl as well. I didn't really start wearing it till college. I didn't get comfortable with applying it until in my 30s. So what is so special about Kulfi is it is so easy to apply and to create a routine for yourself. How do you approach that part of product development and making sure this is sort of foolproof, easy to apply, and it doesn't require an artist's hand to look good on you?
I love that. You basically have encapsulated how we think about product, because it is, if you think about me as a consumer too, I also didn't really wear makeup because I found it intimidating. I thought eyeshadow palettes, oh my God, I don't know what to do with all these colors. And that's why we made single pot shadows that you can just dip your fingers in and apply with your fingers. And the way we think about it is that we make serious makeup that doesn't take itself seriously.
I love that.
Because it is high performance. This eyeshadow, once you apply it, it's not going to budge, it's not going to crease, there's not going to be any fallout. Or the mascara, which we just launched, it's going to give you that beautiful drama and volume, but you can be a beginner and you can still ace that look and feel really comfortable with it. And we want to intentionally make it easy to use and give you the performance without having necessarily artistry skills. Of course, makeup artists can use it too, and they do love it, but especially for wedding makeup, we get so many requests. But there is that versatility with how we design our products.
You were Sephora's first South Asian-owned makeup brand, which is a huge achievement. What was it like bringing Kulfi into such a huge retailer that is known for that high artistry, sort of skilled makeup? And what do you think it means for you to have the brand have such a presence in the stores, in store as well as online?
One of my favorite DMs is someone messaged me on Instagram to say, we had just launched in Sephora in store, and she said, I walked into a Sephora with my dad, and my dad was just standing in front of the Kulfi space and just shocked, right? Like they were like Desi, and he was just shocked that there's a brand called Kulfi at Sephora and it has space there. And I feel like there's such a huge power in feeling seen, whether it's through colors, it's imagery, it's the words that we use. And that's really what we set out to do, was to create that connection, that feeling of feeling seen. And that's my goal with Sephora, is like, how do we create that space where you can walk in and play with color, play and feel included in the beauty conversation. I don't think when I started out I even imagined we'd be here. It's amazing to actually launch at Sephora and be their first South Asian inspired makeup brand, but it's one of many firsts, I hope, and I hope we can continue to kind of give our consumers ultimately, like, meet them where they are and give them the experiences that they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. You've won a lot of Allure Best of Beauty awards, you won Sephora awards, but also you spoke about the DMs that you get in terms of messages you get with people going into Sephora with their families, whatnot. What are you most proud of today?
Definitely the messages I get from our consumers, because being an entrepreneur, as I'm sure you know, it's not easy. There's so many hard days where you're like, can I continue? Can I go on? And what makes it meaningful, of course, building a business is amazing, having financial success is amazing and important, but what makes it meaningful is being able to impact someone's life. And so to get a message from someone saying, like, I finally found a shade match, I've never found a concealer shade match, which we were talking about just prior to this. Everything else looked orange or ashy on me, and it has helped me feel more confident. Just being able to say that we've helped have that impact in some small way is the best part.
I mean, you really help people show up as their full selves and feel really good in that. And that is a huge gift to people who may not feel seen or may not feel included or may not feel like their voices and their stories matter. So I'm so glad you've developed this brand and that you create products that really do improve people's lives.
I'm so proud of that. And I think part of it is also just showing up as you are, loud and proud, is really important to us. And that's why we use the colors we use or use the words we use, even though, it might not be easy for someone to pronounce nazar no more, but we want to use those words. And it sort of, again, comes from that lived experiences of having been, grown up in India, lived in Singapore, lived in the US. I've experienced my culture in a specific way that I want to share with the world.
Walk us through the life of developing a product from idea to launch at Kulfi.
Oh my God, first it takes years and years. I think people underestimate how long it takes, because we just launched our mascara and someone's like, can we get colored mascara now? And I'm like, hang on, let me launch this mascara first. But really, I think it's and sometimes it's also not a very linear journey. I wouldn't say we're like, okay, this we're gonna start this and end this. So we typically have many ideas sort of floating, I would say, and we're working on them simultaneously. A lot of the inspiration of what we work on comes from what we're hearing from our community. We stay super connected with them through focus groups, interviews. We go back and do Instagram research or polls and talk to people or read their feedback. And so a specific example would be Free the Brow, which is our brow gel. There was this personal experience that I had with my brows being thick but being made fun of for the longest time, and at the same time we were always nourishing our hair on the head. And I felt like there was such a dichotomy in how we treat our hair. If it's on your face, in an unwanted spot, we are go to the threading salon, and it's almost demonized versus kind of how much we care for our hair. And I felt like we need to give that love to our brows, which we're blessed with, and we need to kind of give that nourishment. And that's where the idea of Free the Brow came from. And then it also came from our customers saying that they have thicker brows and they might want something that's a little bit less crunchy than the traditional brow gels out there in the market. We have dark brows, they don't want any flaking, which the white flakes on the brows were a huge problem. So there was all these different things we were hearing in my personal experience that we kind of connected the dots to create this product. And the ideation happened 2 years ago, and then we sort of start creating a brief We reach out to different labs, work with them on the formulation. We do a lot of testing and then pairing it with the perfect component, which is the packaging. So one of the things that stands out with our Free the Brow Gel, it comes in this really beautiful packaging, which has 3 brushes. And so each step is kind of very intentional. And then eventually, once we have the product, we think about how are we going to actually share the message, what's the marketing going to look like, and we do involve our community with a lot of marketing. So most of the models we have are all casted from TikTok. We typically have a casting call and see beautiful faces from around New York that are in our campaigns, and then it kind of comes back full circle to the community.
That's amazing. That's a note to all of you. Go make sure you're following Kulfi on TikTok so you have an opportunity to be their next model.
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to ask you about Legacy, because you were the first South Asian-owned beauty brand, makeup brand that entered Sephora. You will not be the last, because as we all know, if there can be 10, 20, countless brands started by Caucasian or white people and no one blinks an eye, the same can be said for ours. What do you want the Kulfi of Legacy to be, and how do you want Kulfi's first status to change what Sephora looks like, change what other beauty counters look like in department stores, and change our relationship with beauty?
For me, our mission is really about changing that relationship with beauty to be a more joyful one. And that's why I called it Kulfi. You know, Kulfi is fun, it's ice cream, it's what we have at celebrations. It's bringing that little moment of joy to your everyday routine. And that's what I want people to experience when they're touching and feeling and using our products, versus kind of like coming in with this baggage, coming in with this, I need to put on a concealer because I need to conform to a certain beauty standard. Like, it's just changing that relationship and experience with beauty, and that's really the legacy I hope we can leave with Kulfi. But I think what is really important too is what you mentioned is like, we're the first, but we're not going to be the last. I hope so, because it's really about the work is getting done, right? Like, there's so many people, you here, right? And like, so many people are doing the work of bringing representation, bringing inclusion, having these conversations, and how do we involve them and uplift them and hopefully give them a platform. Like, that's something I would love to continue doing. We actually, before we launched product, we had a blog called Kulfi Bites, and that was some of my best experiences with the brand, because it was a lot of Gen Z emerging writers. They probably had never written before for a publication, that writing about very specific experiences that they had for our blog. And that storytelling has now carried over to our video sort of platforms and social media platforms. But I always say, like, there's all these confident young women out there who are doing the work, and I want to be able to, like, men and women, that we want to make sure we partner with and uplift and hopefully provide a platform.
What's next in the Kulfi pipeline?
Ooh,
what have you want to develop that you haven't yet? What can we get maybe a sneak peek of that's coming out maybe in the next couple of years?
A huge white space in the beauty space is skin tints and foundations for olive undertones in our complexions. It's the reason our concealer was able to stand out in a very crowded market, and I feel like there's still so much work to be done there. So we've been working on that for a long time, and I hope we can bring it to life in the next couple of years, because I feel like that is a space that is very underserved.
Can't wait. Selfishly speaking, I'm like dabbing yours all over my face and then trying to blend it out. So.
Yes, in the meantime, that is a good hack. Our concealer can double up.
What's next for you personally?
I just moved back to New York, as we were chatting about. So very excited to really reconnect with the community here. There's such a amazing community of entrepreneurs here who are doing cool things in beauty and fashion and food. And so just kind of reconnecting with that community, I'm excited about that. And in the longer term, just spending more time with my family, to be honest. I think with entrepreneurship, it just takes over your life. And I feel like I have been in this season where I have prioritized a lot of that over some of my personal relationships, and I'm hoping that I can achieve a little bit more balance.
I'd like to end with how we kind of began. If you could sit down with your younger self, what would you tell her?
I talk about this with my therapist very often. Because she's always like, you need to take the time to give the little girl you were a hug and tell her you are good enough. You are, you deserve love. You don't have to do X, Y, and Z to deserve that. And I feel like it's so important because we get caught up in being like, oh, I need to grow more, have higher sales, do this, do that, and never kind of acknowledge again how far I've come since we launched that first Kajil and how many people we've touched. That's such a celebration. And so to my younger self, I'd say you're doing good, you're doing okay.
What Kulfi product would you bring for her?
Ooh, I definitely will bring the shadows. I want her to have fun. I want her to have all the glitter in the world. She deserves it.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today on That Desi Spark, Priyanka.
Thank you so much. This was such a joy.
And thank you for watching. Stay tuned.